Hello and welcome to my channel Crafting with Shuttermonkey. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a Cathedral Windows Pin Cushion. Now to make your pin cushion you're going to need two 8-inch squares. These 8-inch squares will be the main fabric that shows on the outer edges of your pin cushion. And you're also going to need a 2.5-inch square. This goes into the centre of the cushion and I fussy cut a little unicorn on point to go into the centre of my cushion. Now, to create the first fold, the first thing you have to do is fold one of your 8-inch squares in half and you're going to sew down each side using a 1/4-inch seam. Secure your stitches at the beginning and at the end, and you're going to do that to both of your 8-inch squares. Now, once you've stitched down both sides, you're going to refold this square, finger press your seams open, line up those seams, and secure with a pin to hold it all in place. You're then going to sew along this seam here. I'm just going to refold this out the way so it makes it easier for you to see. You're going to stitch along here but leave a little gap, a 2-inch gap just in the centre so you can turn it all through to the right side later. And here we go. The next thing you need to do is snip all 4 corners just to reduce the bulk once you turn it through to the right side, and then you're going to press those seams open. Now you just want to press the seams, you don't want to press the edges of your fabric, just the seams. And here you can see I've pressed my seams but haven't pressed the edges of my fabric. It's just when you turn it through to the right side your creases will be facing in the wrong direction. And once your seams have been pressed, you are ready to turn your squares through to the right side. So using that little gap, we'll just poke your corners through and turn this square through to the right side. Just take care, you don't want to burst any of your stitches, and you want to make sure that you poke all those corners out. I do this at first using my finger, and then once I've got them poked out, I will use a knitting needle to make sure that I've got nice points to my corners. Just be careful because you don't want to burst through your stitches. And you do that with both squares and then you'll go and give them a press. And once you've pressed both squares, you're going to hand stitch that little gap closed. Now I did that using a ladder stitch. So I've secured my thread already. So where I come out from one side, I just go back into the opposite side and I'll take about 1/8 of an inch and pull my thread through. Where I come out, I go back into the other side. So you're laddering back and forwards just to close that gap. And again, where I level with where I come out, I go into the opposite side. Take about 1/8 of an inch. This is called ladder stitch and you'll just do that all the way along that gap from side to side until your gap is closed. Right, that's us finished the first fold and now we're ready to start the second fold. And to do this, flip it over to the other side so your seams are underneath. Right, I'm going to use a needle and some thread. I've got a little knot in the end of my thread and I'm just going to put the needle through this first corner. I'm then going to take the needle and put it through the opposite corner. It's just through the edges and you don't want to pull too tight, and then go back through that first corner again. These will fold over and they'll lie closely together. You then want to take your third corner, just the edge again, and then you will go and grab that final corner. And if you gently pull your thread, you'll see that they all fold into the centre and they lie quite neatly. And once you're happy with how those 4 corners are positioned, you take your needle right through to the back of your work and you're going to secure those corners into place with a couple of stitches. So you're going to go through from the back into the front, grab one of your corners and back through to the other side again. Now I'll do that a few times, just go back and forward grabbing those corners and then secure your stitches at the back of your work once you're finished. And do that with both of your squares again. Once you've finished that second fold, give both squares a press and then you're ready to join these squares together. Now if you just lie them side by side, you will see that sometimes one edge is longer than the other, so find two edges that line up neatly. And then you're going to zigzag that together. And once you've used your zigzag stitch to join those two squares together, you're ready to pop your little 2.5 inch square into the centre. I've actually trimmed my little unicorn square down to 2.25 inches. I felt the 2.5 was slightly too big. You're just going to fold those edges of the fabric over and pin into place, and you'll do that all the way around your centre square. These edges fold in quite easily because you're folding on the bias. Now the next thing to do is you're going to sew these edges into place. You want to sew quite close to the edge of this fabric, but at the same time you also want to secure those corners as well. Now you may find it easier just to pin those in place, or even pop a couple of hand stitches in to secure that before you sew. And once you've stitched around all 4 edges, the next thing you're going to do is fold those outside edges back as well. Just the same way as you did with the centre, fold them back and pin into place, and go round all 4 sides. Pin it into place, and then you're going to stitch it down with your sewing machine. And once you've got that all stitched into place using your sewing machine, you're ready to then start hand stitching the cushion to finish it off. So if you flip it over to the wrong side, and the next thing to do is to hand stitch this back seam together. Now you can do this however you like. You can whip stitch it, you can blanket stitch it, or you can ladder stitch it. But use a double thread when you do it, it just makes it a wee bit more secure. And here's how my cushion is looking now. I've hand stitched the back seam, I've also hand stitched along the top, and I've hand stitched half of the bottom seam together. I've just left this little gap here so I can pop some toy stuffing inside. And now you're ready to start putting in your toy stuffing. Now you can stuff this as little or as much as you like, it's your pin cushion. If you prefer other types of stuffing, you can use that too. Just as you stuff it in, make sure you get it right into the corners. And once you're happy with the amount of stuffing that you have inside, you just finish hand stitching that final gap closed. And there you go, you've made your own Cathedral Windows Pin Cushion. The only thing that I didn't think of is I can't put the pins in the centre because I don't want to stick the pins in my unicorn. So for this cushion, I think I'll just stick them around the edges. I hope you enjoy making your own Cathedral Windows Pin Cushion. Thanks for watching.